Hi, I'm Joe Scacciaferro, and this is On Location. All right, my next guest started his career in 1987 as a board op and tape editor at FAN. He went on to become FAN's executive producer of both Jets and Giants, the radio network. He was one of the first pioneers of fantasy sports industry. Oh, and thank you for that. By founding Pro Football News and Injury Report. He then, in 2004, became the senior vice president when he joined SiriusXM, always make sure I get that right, SiriusXM, and oversaw the company's development of SiriusXM's sports channels, which included all the first of their kind dedicated sports radio channels. And I'm going to read them because I can't memorize all this crap. All right. Here's SiriusXM's NFL radio, SiriusXM NBA radio, Fantasy Sports Radio, NASCAR radio, College Sports Radio, FC, Fight Nation, and All Sports Mad Dog Sports Radio channel, as well as SiriusXM's 5 channels dedicated to the ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC conference. And if you knew this guy, you wouldn't believe he did any of those things. Welcome, Steve Cohen.
It's exhausting hearing all that. You got it right. When I started there, it was Sirius, and then Sirius merged with XM, and then I took over their sports department and worked on all those channels, built them, rebuilt them, and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a lot, you know. That's why radio. It's why people pay for radio, right? You grew up listening to radio for free. Oftentimes terrible AM signals, right? So, but when I went to Sirius, right, and you know this from your years with the Giants were only on the AM station, WFAN. Prior to that, it was WNEW,
Yep,
I believe.
Yep.
And so it didn't sound good on AM radio. And at Sirius, we had a real quality feed from day one when we launched a feed for every single NFL team in 2004. So it was a nice upgrade from a listener standpoint. But again, it's what you pay for when now you're paying for radio, something you were used to getting for nothing.
Yeah. And I'm going to remind you of a conversation you and I had when the opportunity presented itself to you. And you were at FAN and you were rocking and rolling over there. And you said, so I got this opportunity at Sirius, and I'm not really sure. What do you think? You think this is going to stick? Are people going to pay for this? Is this? And I was just sitting there. I had no idea. I don't know. And my only answer was they pay for television now, so I guess. And then you went off and just did this list. And every time I would talk to you, it would be like, bam, another one, bam, another one, bam, another one.
Oh, it's funny because I remember when I told my wife about it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. And I said, but it's going to give me a chance to put my stamp on a radio station, right? NFL radio, build it the way I want to, host on it daily and all that good stuff. So I said, why not? Because I had my other business to fall back on. And so,
which was running the deli in Queens?
No, you don't fall back on a deli business. That's a full-time job. Okay? That's a 16 to 18-hour day, right? I know. I grew up with deli people. So I delivered auto parts while my best friend worked in his father's deli. So no, I didn't go in that direction. But with that said, I had the Pro Football News and Injury Report, which was doing very well. And so it wasn't like, I was going to be unemployed if the satellite thing didn't work out. And then, by the way, Robert Kraft, who I met with prior to finalizing the interviews with the NFL, said to me, look, Steve, we believe in this. If it doesn't work out on Sirius for whatever reason, we'll move it to XM. So you'll always have a job. And I'm like, okay, it was a 7-year commitment. I was like, that's about as far down the road as I could look at this point in my life. And so I went for it. And it was definitely very interesting. And, I went to Sirius with a lot of experience already. There are a lot of people there who didn't have much radio experience. The beauty of building NFL radio is they allowed me to hire who I wanted to hire, as long as it was within the budget, right? And it was a good budget. So I hired, terrific producers from all around the country, brought them in because that's the backbone to anything, right? You can have great talent, but if you have poor production, it's not going to be very good. So you have to arm the talent with what they need to be successful, to look successful, to sound successful. And so all that is really important. And I'm seeing people now, even some of the most watched shows, man, the production's bad.
Tell me about it.
I mean, I was watching the Manning cast the other day with, and Aaron Rodgers was a guest. How many times do they have an issue with Aaron's mic or the feed or whatever? Yeah. You got to nail that stuff down before you get on primetime Monday night. So those are the things that that stick with me, especially when you have that kind of talent. Oh my God, it doesn't get any better than Eli, Peyton, and Aaron chopping it up about a game I'm watching.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. Okay, well, when that feed goes out and they got to redial and reconfigure, and then you sit through that bell noise as you're trying to understand what Aaron's saying. Very difficult, very difficult. So I always put a lot of emphasis on the quality of a production.
Yeah, no, and your stuff is obviously stellar, and that's why it kept growing. I have a million questions that I want to ask you. Let's start with, because where you just landed was production and technology. People in your position are typically not homegrown production and technical people. They kind of arise through the ranks of executives. They come up through management. They come up through that. They don't have that feel for what it takes to do it. What you just said, they might not even identify who to go to fix that. You were that guy too. So I think that gives you a tremendous edge moving forward. Talk a little bit about having that advantage and recommending other people coming up, that even if you want to be a senior vice president, you really do need to, go to the woodshed and do some of that other stuff.
Yeah, well, you make a great point, and that's what helped me become a good manager, right? Because a good manager understands the needs of his or her employees. And so what also helped me was the fact that I did everything you can do in radio before I became a manager / executive. And so it wasn't beneath me to go to a board op and start working with them on how they should ride levels and how they should mix things and edits. It wasn't, beneath me to help people with editing and let them understand a cleaner in, a cleaner out makes for a better experience, right? And of course I produced and I hosted and I reported. So I was able to speak to everyone who worked for me and with me from a standpoint of experience where I've been there. I did that. And here's what worked for me, So I think that's always helpful. And I think managers who have done all those things, if I could make somebody better at what they do, I'm going to be a better manager, right? Because what happens is just like a coach and a player. if that coach is helping that player understand and makes that player better, right? No difference in radio. They're going to respect me. They're going to want to hear more from me about how I did things, how I do things, and then bounce different ideas off of me. So yeah, so that really helped me, as opposed to, the executive that you're referring to, who some may call a suit, right? Some may call a bean counter, right?
Yeah.
No, that was never me, because I was all about the creative process, right? And formulating ideas, collaborating with people on those ideas to make them better, and then executing those ideas. So yeah, I kept a tight budget as far as it's part of the job,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But
Absolutely.
you do it correctly, it's really not difficult. You tell people what you can pay them. They want to work for you, great. They don't, I'm on to the next person. Try to find the right fits. So all that factors into it. But yeah, I don't know how some executives, how they've gotten their jobs and what their strengths and weaknesses are. But I do know that those who've never been in the trenches and those who never created programming from the ground up aren't as suited to be good managers to people who are in the trenches doing that work.
Yeah, no, you hit on all of the right points, because, and I practiced everything you just said. What our industry is creative, and it's at every level. There's a collaboration that needs to be there, and you and I came into the business. Well, I can't speak for you because I don't know the early days, but I do know when I came into the industry, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing in the music industry, in television, in theater, concerts. I honestly had no clue. I played bass in a funk band, and somehow I became this guy. But give me the beginning days for you.
I want to know if you picked at the bass or you used a pick.
Bass players don't pick. Stop that. Stop that.
Say, fresh out of the mouth of Terrence Geezer Butler. That's what he always said. He said any bass player worth his or her salt doesn't use a pick.
Hell no.
I just gained respect, additional respect for you.
Also, let me also give you the other side. Not only do I use fingers, I use my thumb, because I slap and pop the whole time. Because in actuality, I am a black man. But
I understand. Well, you ran a little Stanley Clark, huh?
Jaco Pastore, Stanley Clark.
About Johnson from Brothers Johnson.
Oh, my favorite. Totally my favorite.
That's right.
There we go. Okay. Look at us.
All right. Well, we're there. We're on the same wavelength. He was my favorite too. Anyway, what was your question?
Give me the beginning days before FAN.
Well, listen, I was a heavy metal disc jockey at Westchester Community College.
That's great.
Okay. And so what happened was, I'm out of high school. I take a gap year. I'm driving an auto parts truck, and which was great because it paid me cash. And then, so it took a gap year, and then I started at community college. I go up there. I don't know what I want to study. I don't know who I want to be, what I want to be. And so then I'm in the student center having lunch. A friend of mine says, "Hey man, why don't you come downstairs and check out the college radio station?" I'm like, "College radio station?" He's like, yeah, WARY. I'm like, "Oh, sure." So I go down there and I see the stacks of vinyl, right? I'm looking around. I love music, right? I was going to every Judas Priest, Scorpions, Iron Maiden show. Come on. So I'm checking this out, and I'm like, I said, I can do this? Well, yeah, if you're any, yeah, okay. So I said, you put the record on, you talk about the band. I mean, come on, how hard could this be? Well, that was my first taste of management, because they gave me playlists that I had to play. And I'm like, oh man, look, I'm cool with the REM. I'm cool with the Talking Heads. I said, but some of this other stuff, come on, help me out here. How about a little give and take? All right. So we figured out a playlist that worked for me. And then eventually I did real well playing the heavy metal that people wanted more of what I wanted to play and less of what the music director wanted to hear. So it worked out very well. Anyway, so I get my grades. Now I'm enjoying what I'm doing, right? So now I start studying radio, studying TV, broadcasting, right? And all that good stuff. And then I'm freelancing for friends' bands. I'm doing audio, I'm doing lighting. And okay, so now we're moving in a direction here of a career, right? And, you know, I go to the Rising Sun on Yonkers Avenue and do audio and lighting for my friend's band. I didn't get paid, but I drank for free all night. So that was pretty good back then. But I gained valuable work experience, right? It's just like any kid comes in to, you know, hands me a resume and I look at the resume and I'm like, okay. I said, did you do any internships? No. Oh, do you have any relevant work experience? No, but I had a 3.92 GPA. I'm like, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help me. Okay, you were good at school. All right, that's great. I need to know if you know how to edit tape. Do you know how to run a board? Have you ever used a microphone? Have you ever run cable? So anyway, for me, the internships were everything. And so had great grades at Westchester, and I transferred easily to the University of Arizona and picked up my studies there. But my DJ career was pretty much over, except for when I came back to New York for summertime and Christmas time. Then I would do shifts at WARY because I just enjoyed doing it. Not like I was getting paid for it. I just loved doing it. And I think that's part of the career that I wanted. Is I wanted to be in a field that I really enjoyed, that I, you know, didn't feel like it was work. Because, you know, as you progress along and I graduated University of Arizona, I had a great internship I ever tell you about the internship I had at WNBC 66?
No.
Okay. So Joey Reynolds had replaced Howard Stern in the spring of 1987. So I applied for whatever internship I can get at NBC. And they had me interview with a guy named Chris Doyle. Wonderful, wonderful man. Learned so much from him, right? Fordham University guy. So, okay, you got the gig. You're going to be the summer intern for the Joey Reynolds show. I said, great. No idea who Joey Reynolds was. Joey Reynolds was a pretty big deal up in Rochester, New York, okay, as DJ. And so, long story short, you'll enjoy this, by the way, because you know me and you know my personality. So, through the internship, and I'm not shy, okay? This isn't going to be...
really? Oh, that's so surprising. That's the most surprising thing you've said so far.
So this isn't going to be one of those wallflower internship deals where I'm running to get people coffee. However, I did go up to the commissary and get people burgers because they were buying, and okay, free as me, which was really cool, right? You go up to the NBC commissary back in the day, and the Today Show live at 5, David Letterman, Paul Schaefer, on and on and on, right? Okay. So Joey and the staff, including Jay Sorensen and the late, great Jane Dornacker, who died in the traffic helicopter accident, were wonderful to me, you know. And through NBC, I met people like Dave Sims, Mike Breen, and Bernard McGurk, God rest his soul. So now I'm in the game, okay? I'm going to 30 Rock every day for an internship, and I'm learning stuff, and I'm editing, and Joey's like, hey, he's like, well, why don't you do some movie reviews for us? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in these producers who are coming to town to promote their movies, and you're in front of them going to go on and rip their movies.
That's a perfect job for you.
I had fun. It was a lot of fun. Look, I helped Jay write some stuff for his comedy that he was doing around songs. But the one thing that really served me well in the future that I did for Joey was we would find out who the guests were on Live at 5. And then I would take the elevator up to Live at 5, and I'd steal the guests and bring them down to Joey's show. So I got Yoko Ono. I got Jane Fonda. I convinced Jackie Mason to come down because I brought him bagels. Okay. Come on.
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah.
And I got Barbara Eden to come down. Okay. So any kid who grew up watching I Dream of Jeannie, they love Barbara Eden. So that was like, wow. And she was just, what a wonderful person. Anyway, so now I'm putting myself out there to these people, right? And it would serve me well down the road when I had to interview players, because I wasn't in awe of them. You know, I wasn't intimidated by them, because I kind of broke out of that by having to talk to. And then I'll tell you my best story with that Joey Reynolds show. Stephen King is coming in to promote Who Made Who, right? AC/DC did the soundtrack for Who Made Who, okay? As you know. I don't want to insult you. So I get the idea of, okay, I know I'm going to have to entertain, Stephen King in the green room before the show. So I bring my little cassette recorder with a copy of Maximum Overdrive. Maximum Overdrive was the movie. Who Made Who was the song. Maximum Overdrive he was promoting. And I was like, hey, I figure I'd bring a little music so we, chill out a little bit. So I hit the music, and the first chords are struck. He looks at me, he's like, this is great. He pops open his briefcase. He's got a 6-pack of light beer from Miller, which is in his attaché. And he cracks it open. Beer shoots up in the air. He's like, you want one? I'm like, no, I'm the intern. I drink on the job, but you enjoy. And he was so nice, so nice. But I met George Carlin, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was amazing. And then
what you're saying, though, you're saying something that's so critically important, is that I got to back up a hair. You went two things. One, you were taking jobs that you might not have, and I'm using intern as a job because it is. You're taking these gigs that you aren't prepared for yet. And you're saying, yeah, I can do that. You didn't balk and say, well, I really don't have that. I'm not, it's kind of out of my, you just went for it all in, kept going. And retrospectively, now you're looking back and saying every one of those opportunities became part of another tool.
Absolutely. By the way, I got the job at WFAN because I did an internship as a board op for a nationally syndicated radio show where basically I was the morning drive board op, and all I was doing was playing spots during breaks. Right. Local break, boom, okay, here we go. I do my spot set, get back on time, right? So when I interviewed for WFAN right out of college, that's where the NBC thing helped me.
This was all while you were in college? This whole NBC thing? Or this was...
Summer of 86. I graduated summer of 87.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So upon graduation, I go down to NBC.
Got it.
If they're hiring, right? Didn't apply for anything while I was at school because I was working at K-Gun TV in Tucson, okay? And they wanted me to be full-time upon graduation. And I was basically doing full-time hours already. And I was like, I'm going to take about 60 to 90 days to go back to New York to see, if I can get a gig. So I went to NBC and I knocked on Mike Breen's door. He had been doing the overnight show and basically woke him up because he was sleeping in the office. Back then, people were allowed to sleep in the office. It's not like now. Anyway. And he's like, they're not really hiring, but they're starting an old sports talk radio station out in Queens. And I looked at him and I said, all sports talk radio? He's like, yeah. I was like, that'll never work. So he gives me the program director's card. I call the guy that day. The next day I'm in, I go to WFAN. I've got to wait for this guy, John Pruder, God rest his soul. He died first year into WFAN. He was the program director. And we talk about a lot of dead people here, okay? So
I was just going to say, you're making me sound old.
You've been working with the business this long. You're around a lot of death. Anyway, I waited on the couch with a guy named Joey DeFazio. We must have waited 3 hours. There were 2 positions left. Long story short, Joey and I both got the positions. Okay, the last 2 board op, tape op jobs. Got them that day. Grabbed a 6-pack, went out to the parking lot, and Joey and I celebrated. And to this day, Joey is the head of sports production and imaging for SiriusXM.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for a segue. So we've talked about take gigs, take whatever. Just say yes. Take things that are over your head. Just keep going. Keep trying. Don't shoot for senior vice president. Shoot for steps to go up. Now I was just going to ask you, how important is connections and building your network? And you just told me that you two met then and both moved up together. So
yeah,
talk a little bit about spending time making sure you're networking.
Well, listen, had I not networked at NBC and become friends with Mike Breen, I might not have never known about WFAN. Those 2 gigs, they would have been spoken for another 24 to 48 hours later, right? So I think the beauty of WFAN and the beauty of creating the first all sports talk radio station is we really didn't know what the hell we were doing. Okay, so it was trial by fire, and so we were given a bad game plan. And what I mean by that is the MS Broadcasting folks who put together WFAN, owned it. They wanted us to create basically the radio version of ESPN TV. Okay. The problem with that is, and the MS folks are from Indiana, right? Amazing, wonderful people. National sports talk radio is not what the average New York sports fan wants. Okay. New York sports fans don't care a lot about the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Washington Huskies and on and on and on. They want to talk about the pro teams, right? New York's not a college town either.
Nope.
We all get pumped up for the tournament and watch college football, which has grown substantially since I entered the field in 1987. But we needed hardcore New York sports. That's why the combination of Imus coming in, well-known New York shock jock in the morning, and then Mike and the Mad Dog coming into the afternoon, they did hardcore New York sports talk. But they knew how to cover the national big story, right? So then we figured it out. We were on our way, but it was more about the people who worked there that built WFAN into what it would become and the philosophy that we put forth, because you can't do it the same way in every city, right? You have to take the pulse of the fans and know what they want. And so we were able to do that, and others have, and it became a very, very successful format.
I mean, I'm as a, and I don't want to say fan with a small f, being a sports fan and having that at the ready, it was the equivalent to me having an FM radio station that I love this particular music, and then I could flip and get the only sports information I wanted was New York. I went to school in the University of Wisconsin, which is a big college rah-rah town. I could care less. I don't think I ever went to a game. I just kept trying to get to New York. And so, yeah, having that collaborative community that you built, when you're building, even at that level or a small production house, you need to have like minds. You need to have people with common vision and minimal ego. I mean, you and I have pretty substantial egos, but we know how to use them. We know how to use that in a collaborative sense. How did that culture get created and developed?
Well, it's funny, at WFAN, it came from relying on one another, right?
Wow,
For
nice.
what we needed. And so I think, and that included, Mike Francesa and Christopher Russo. There's no doubt. I mean, Bob Gelb and I were the guys working in the studio with them, and we did everything together. We did remotes together, and those first remotes and all that, and went around the country and covered the biggest events in sports, whether New York teams were in them or not. So I think there's a trust there. I think there's a collaboration there. I think like with Mike and the Mad Dog, they were cool about letting me try different production, and I presented to them. If they liked it, it aired. If they didn't, it didn't air. And so that was great. When they really liked it, it made you want to do more of that. And so, it gets the juices going. Look, it's just like, anything else. When you do a good show, there's that natural high.
Oh, yeah.
That comes along with the end of a really good show, a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And all that. So I think, at Sirius, it was different because now I'm the boss. Okay. But I think you have to know how to speak to people, and you can't, just like coaches can't coach every player the same way. You can't manage employees all the same way. People come from different places and different cultures and all that. And I think, you kind of manage with a goal in mind for both of you, yourself and the employee. And you want, and if you can make that person better at what they do, and by the way, oftentimes they made me better at what I did, because you got to be a good listener in anything you do.
That's critical. Thank you.
It is. It's very critical, because I can come into a situation with an idea on how I want to do this, right? But I don't want to scare you off by just dropping it in your lap, or dropping an anvil on you.
Right.
I want to get your thoughts. And, and Bill Parcells taught me something. Is that name drop one? That was name drop.
If anybody even remembers who that is outside of our generation.
So he taught me something, and it was it had to do with, I called him and I asked him this question. I said, Bill, how did you communicate with these owners? How did you disagree with them?
Oh.
How did you disagree with people so that it would give you a chance to implement what you wanted to implement? And the thing that he taught me is, look, be respectful. And when they say something you disagree with, don't tell them you disagree. Just say, I understand what you're saying, but I have a little different opinion on that. It just goes down a lot easier, right? And so now, and so I think that's a big thing in terms of the communication part of what we do and what anybody does. Okay. You want to manage with, an iron fist. Well, good luck to you, because you're not going to get the most out of people. Fear doesn't do much. Okay. Fear doesn't do much at all, but people who fear letting you down because they know that you have respect for them, that fear of letting the people down that you work for, that's the fear that works.
Dude, I just stole that soundbite.
Oh, feel free to use it.
It's going to get where do you see that thing go viral? That's a great line, by the way. I mean, it's a seriously good line, because you summed up how it works. That, if you try to intimidate and you try to shut people down, normally what you get is people who concede to that are not talented, or they don't believe in their own self, because they're just
Well, that's hard, right? So when you're working in live radio, okay, there's no safety net here.
Right.
We're live. You swallow a fly, figure out how to get past that fly, cough it up, choke it up, make a bit out of it, do something, okay? Because the next break ain't coming up for 15 minutes. So, but yeah, no, it's a performance, right? When you're working in the live medium, and that's why it's like people, oh, what's the difference between radio and podcasting? I'm like, well, the podcast ain't live. That's a big difference.
That's huge difference.
Big difference.
Huge difference.
You don't get second takes in live radio,
Yeah.
But so again, it's thrilling, right? It's fun. It's creative. And it's all the things that make you want to do it. And radio, listen, a lot of people who work in radio don't make a lot of money. Okay. So you really got to love what you do. And if you're not making a lot of money, like I wasn't at WFAN, I got my IBW card. I went down to MSG Network, where I met Fooch and all those crazy cats. And I was an audio guy for MSG Network. So I was working Monday through Friday for WFAN, and I was working Saturday and Sunday for MSG Network. I made more money Saturday and Sunday than I made Monday through Friday. And I was like, this is great. Okay. And we moved on with that for a while. And I met a lot of again, you talk about networking. Oh my God. I mean, the people that I met at MSG Network back in the day, I keep in touch with so many of them. Dave Patterson, Fooch, Mike Santini, Frank DeGracy, Mike McCarthy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And how cool it was years later. Mike is, under the head guy, Gurkowski. Mike was the number 2 there.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mike would come down and hang out with the production people because we had a lot of time between the 6 p.m. show and the nighttime show. We had like 3-4 hours, right? And Mike would come down and we'd watch games or whatever. And here I am, just a little freelance guy. Well, we became friendly. And years later, when Mike was doing other things, we'd go to lunch and we'd have a great time. We still stay in touch now. And so again, you got to foster those relationships, and you can't be shy, because in the end, these are people who have made it that you're going to learn from. Okay. So you learn how to be a better human being, which is what you'll learn from Mike McCarthy. Or you learn how to be better at the production end of your job through the Frank DeGraces and Mike Santini's and Dave Pattersons of the world. It's all important.
Yeah.
It's all really
Yeah.
important.
I'm gonna pull the plug now because you just brought it down perfectly. But you nailed everything I needed to cover today, and some great backstories. I wasn't sure, knowing how deep you and I's relationship goes, and knowing the level of humor and sarcasm, I was wondering, am I going to be able to air this thing?
Well, I'm relaxed now. I'm calm, relaxed.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, I guess the live things, that's what we share. And when you were talking about podcast first, I gotta wrap this up. But when you were talking podcast versus live radio, it's the same when you're talking about like a live concert versus you're inside, in a recording studio. Some bands are very good. Some musicians are very good in a recording studio, but they'll die on stage. And the production people who work live, that's my life. I love being there. And I'm going to give you one closing story. My wife and I rarely go to a concert as a fan. Very rarely. I could probably name the times I've sat in seats. So my wife took me to this Laura Dangles. I don't even know what her name is. Which I found out to be, she's from Orleans. She has this cool R&B vibe to her, plus the New Orleans thing, and she's got a Christian vibe to her music. Regardless of all of that, the show was incredible. What I loved at the end of the show, because she had big video screens up, the show's over, she ran credits.
Oh, wow.
She did a credit call. Carpenters, set designers, caterers. I sat there. The place is emptying out. My wife's going, can we leave? I said, not till that's done.
Remember how important that was? Well, it's still important, but back in the day when I was just getting my name, I was working on the K-Gun newscasts, to see my name,
dude,
on the role as floor manager, camera operator. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was everything.
Oh my, yeah. I to this day, because when I went into this business, my whole family, they're Italian contractors. The last thing they wanted to know was this. And when I was actually able to go, yeah, that's what I do. Look, it's on television. That's my name. See, that's our last name. See our last name? It doesn't fit, but see our last name.
Who's the guy we had to change the font for? Who is?
All right, cuz I gotta go. Steve, thanks. You're gold. Appreciate all the help. Appreciate the career lifetime friendship.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well, and it's always good to see you.
All right, bud. Ciao.
Yeah.